and they should have played the tribute before the game because they played a tribute during a timeout. During a timeout during the game, it was like I believe like 7 minutes into the game, they called somebody called a timeout finally, and then they played the tribute. And you know what John Wall was doing? Talking to his teammates because he's in a game. He's in the middle of a game. He was talking to his teammates. He was talking to his coaches. He wasn't paying any type of attention to the video because it was in the game. He's locked in the moment. What do you expect him to do? Just drop everything and look up? Like how selfish would that look of John Wall to do that in front of his teammates? That they it was just such a it was so disrespectful to have your franchise player for 10 years when he comes back to just give him a tribute in a timeout. That's just so disrespectful in my opinion. I really, really dislike what they did to John Wall. And I feel like they still continue to disrespect John Wall. John Wall had talked about how he's waiting for fans to come back into the arena because those are the people he loves the most. He loves the fans in DC and he loves the people that are playing in DC. So he loves our roster and all that. He never mentioned anything really good about the front office. I mean, the front office straight up lied to him. Straight up. There was an article on The Athletic about what really happened like when John Wall was being traded. And John Wall had said that they told him the Russell Westbrook trade was just, it wasn't true. It wasn't really going to happen. None of that was going to happen. And they straight up lied to him and traded him like a few days later. So the front office has just been so tactless with how they've approached John Wall. I legitimately feel bad for him, and it just sucks as a Wizards fan to watch the dude that like I grew up watching for the most part was John Wall, and it just sucks to watch him be treated like this by the franchise. It's just so disrespectful. The fan base loves him. He's like the most beloved DC player I think of the modern era, I guess, because Wes Unseld I'm sure was very popular and Elvin Hayes and all them in the 70s. But from the 2000s and up, John Wall is probably the most beloved Wizards player from the 2000s and up. And just to treat him the way they did, it really soured my opinion on the Wizards franchise, and I really hope they do better than this. It just felt really petty. They also did. A lot of people don't know this. This is mostly like Wizards fan stuff, but like they had an announcer named Steve Buckhantz, who was he was an announcer for them for like 40 years or something, 30 or 40 years, something like that. And they did him dirty, and they didn't tell him that they were releasing him on his contract until it was up. So he didn't even really, the writing was kind of on the wall, but he didn't really know until they just said, "Yeah, we don't want you back." Like they didn't give him any type of warning in advance, like, "Hey, like this is like we're not exactly looking to bring you back. Like we're looking to kind of move on." They didn't give him any type of warning in advance. They just cut him, which is also extremely disrespectful. I don't like how this franchise is handling letting people go or trading people or any of that stuff. Uh, and they didn't use any footage that Buckhantz narrated in or spoke over in the tribute. They didn't use a single bit of footage. His voice was not in that tribute at all, and that's just petty. At that point, that's just very petty in my opinion, because he called a lot of John Wall's biggest plays and biggest highlights, and his iconic line was the dagger. Like he kind of invented that, and they like just to not hear a single time, just to not hear a single dagger during that tribute video when he said dagger to John Wall shots many times. Just to hear not a single one is just ridiculous. It's very unprofessional, very tactless, and very petty by the Wizards front office, and I'm really not happy about it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore. That was, I felt like, I mean, John Wall said it in the last time they played when they were in Houston that they just kind of felt like they gave up on him and kind of felt like they thought he was washed. They kind of thought he was done for, and he's been playing quite well in Houston. I do tune in to some Houston games just to watch John Wall play because for me, I don't know if you guys noticed, but I also am a Wizards fan, and the person that got me into Wizards basketball, was John Wall. Yeah, I did watch, come in and watch a couple Gilbert Arenas games, but that was near the end and around the time where he had the incident. of course. And then I did when they were really bad with Andre Blatch as the leading, like the main leader of the team. It was hard to watch them. It was, I remember the coach Eddie Jordan. I remember how bad the team was, and then they got John Wall. And John Wall was this young guy, came into the Dougie first thing. I was like, okay, this guy's got some swag, rocking with him. I'm a young kid, so I'm just like I got attached, and I remember so many games and all the stuff he done for DC. I'll never forget. I feel like that's the only highlight they always show on like the websites like Bleacher Report and other things like that. But the shot he had against the Celtics to push it to Game 7, I think it was 2016 playoffs. 2016-2017 season, but the 2017 playoffs, and just I know they lost Game 7, but man, just to watch that live, it meant so much. I don't think the team has made the playoffs since John Wall's been predominantly injured. So I also agree that it should have been the beginning of the game. I think when Kyrie had his tribute video with the Cavaliers when they played the Nets earlier this season, he had his video before the game, of course. I felt like John Wall, at one period of time, he was the Wizards. Bradley. It was Bradley Beal and John Wall, but Wall was the start. He was the guy. Like, if it wasn't for Wall, I'm not gonna say I don't think Beal wouldn't be the player he is now, but I feel like he did play a lot into Beal's development, and I feel like they developed so well together. And just to see him get traded and lied to and get traded, it was just, I felt like as a fan I got lied to as well, and I felt betrayed by the front office. I always kind of felt like Ted Leonsis, as the owner of the Wizards, has never really cared about the Wizards, because he also does own the Washington Capitals, who have won a Stanley Cup. I think that was back in 2017, if I recall correctly. 2017, 2018, something around that time frame. It kind of shows that he just never really, for me, he never really cared about the Wizards. So what he did to John Wall, as shocking as it should be, if you know him or know about him as the owner, it's not the most surprising thing. I mean, even with the Capitals, when they won the Stanley Cup, they kind of let their coach go like it was nothing, and they haven't played as well as they should have been playing the past few years. And I just felt like if they really wanted to keep going with their winning culture, they would keep the same coach they just won with, but they didn't. And I just felt like Washington Wizards, if they want to try to get back to where they were before John Wall's injury and how well they were playing then, should have just kept John Wall. Played it out. I think they should have let him play it out this season before potentially even thinking of a trade, because when it comes to John Wall, he had such a big contract, and they never let him even play up to the money they spent for him. We never got to see him play under that big contract as a Wizard. He just got sent over to the Houston Rockets. I feel like they should have trusted him when he was going through rehab. I mean, they literally watched this man literally go through rehab and go through it all, and they were there for him at the time. At least I thought they were there for him until they saw him. Oh, he's trading value now. Let's just get rid of him. And I just felt like they could have done more to protect such a big franchise player like Wall. So what happened on the game they played the Rockets recently, it's like, if you know much about that front office, it shouldn't really come of too much surprise, which is disappointing and it's upsetting. And as a Wizards fan, I try not to think about the front office as much, but they hold on to a lot of, they do a lot of bad things, and I just felt like this was very disappointing as a Wizards fan, and I just felt like they could have done a lot more. It was nice to see John Wall, put up his 29 and 11. I think that's his season highs this year. But I just wish there was some way they could have done more, to respect such a big player like Wall. Because he, like you were saying, he's done so much for the community of Washington, D.C. He's done so much for the team. and just to do him like that, I just I'm just annoyed. I'm kind of sick to my stomach a little bit, but just annoyed.